We're gonna start with Elden Ring. Let me open up this group first. Skirt. I got everything organized. So first things first, ladies and gentlemen, the Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree reviews are out. And survey says it's the highest reviewed game of 2024. Yes, ladies and gentlemen. As you can see, nothing but 10, 10, 10, 10. It's looking like South Beach right now. Just nothing but 10s everywhere. It's looking like LA. Nothing but 10s everywhere. This is not Cleveland. 5 out of 5, 5 out of 5, 10 out of 10s. The lowest is a 3 out of 5, and Eurogamer just trying to be different. With an average Metacritic of a 95 overall, this is the highest reviewed game of the year, beating out last week's highest reviewed because what was it? The last DLC for Destiny 2 is a 94 overall. So this is officially, which means there's a chance, because the reviews are saying it's true. I seen one review hit my algorithm. He said he had 120 hours. It's a whole new game. It's a possibility. Elden Ring might be the first game to win back-to-back Game of the Year, 2-time Game of the Year winner. It is possible, especially because this year's kind of weak. I don't really feel like there's a strong contender. It's possible. We're gonna watch some reviews together. We're gonna watch. Is that allowed? I believe The Witcher 3 Blood and Wine, their expansion was nominated for Game of the Year, and then wasn't the Cyberpunk joint too? It's possible. The only game I can think of is maybe Stellar Blade, and Stellar Blade is not, I like it, but it's not. Come on, guys. It's not Elden Ring. Cut it out. The only way I think this doesn't win Game of the Year is if people try to make the argument it's DLC, even though it's a full-blown game. That's the only way. Then it probably will be Stellar Blade. So it could lose off a technicality, but we'll see. We'll see what Jeff says when the nominations come out. I'm just saying it's possible. It is possible. Wukong, the previews, we're going to talk about that later too. The previews for Wukong look good. But I don't know, man. I don't know. This is going to be a tough one to beat. I got some videos. We finna check them out and see what the people's saying, and some articles. We gonna sit here and talk this Elden Ring shit, bruh. We finna sit here and talk this Elden Ring shit. Yeah, I didn't mean back-to-back. I meant 2 year, my bad. I didn't mean back-to-back.
When I gave Elden Ring a 10 2 years ago, I did so not just because it's an incredible game, but also because it raised the bar for open world games as a whole. The way it encourages exploration, rewards curiosity, and challenges you to find your own individual solutions to
different shooting at ops, okay.
By including tons of different viable weapons, spells, and other build options.
We gonna get it. We gonna get to it, Cater Creator. We gonna talk the Nintendo shit. We gonna talk Wukong. I got a lot of news. As I said, we finna run this shit.
Exemplary. Now,
we gonna get to it.
Software is back to raise the bar on everyone yet again. This time when it comes to.
But I gotta watch some of these videos.
DLC. Shadow of the Erdtree may not do anything radically different from the base game, but this expansion somehow feels like a scaled down.
It's interesting how casuals accept Elden Ring for Game of the Year, but not Baldur's Gate. To be fair, I think it's because it's a lot of new players. Like, the thing about Baldur's Gate is it came out that year, and then like the people who played it, they loved it. Elden Ring came out 2022, and ever since then, a lot of people have heard about it. So to them, it's probably just like a confirmation bias because they heard about it. They might not even played it. They're just like, oh yeah, Game of the Year. It's Elden Ring has had time to cook for a definitive answer, basically.
Version of that same experience, recapturing
being
all
influenced
the magic of playing Elden Ring for the first time, with more content packed within than many full-price games.
You hear that?
Its unexpectedly large realm is filled with new secrets.
More content than most full-priced games. That's why I said there's a chance this could get nominated for Game of the Year, and it's only $40. Yo, shout out to Master Rising with the sub.
New discoveries, a ton of new build options to experiment with, as well as some of the most challenging and unforgettable boss battles Souls fans will have ever
this
seen.
nigga, what the fuck? Y'all see that? He did a Mickey Mouse. This is a Mickey Mouse playthrough. You see he was running co-op right there? IGN did a Mickey Mouse playthrough. I'm gonna let it slide though because they had to get the review out. So I'm gonna respect it. I understand. They had to rush through it. He needed some help.
Fans will have ever seen.
He said co-op and still losing. What up, Elon?
I strolled into Shadow of the Erdtree thinking that I was some kind of Elden Lord badass, having defeated Melania, Moog, Plasudasax, the Elden Beast, and every other big threat around.
All bosses Ace just beat this week.
My level 150 character was armed with fully upgraded gear and the maximum number of flasks, but let me tell you, it did not take very long for the realm of Shadow to humble me.
Hey, that's what we calling it. What up, Brick? We calling it a Celtics playthrough. A Celtics playthrough. Hella Mickey.
Even though the only requirement to access the new areas is to beat Radon and Moog, which, granted, is no small feat, you're gonna want to over-prepare before stepping foot into this new arena. Because it is brutal.
We might have to
From
use that.
Software definitely skirts the line between fair and unfair with some of the later bosses.
See, why he doing that, bruh? Roll forward, bro. You could have punished that.
Designs in particular. Perhaps getting closer.
That's fire. He got an ice and a fire blade. We gotta fight Todoroki. Why do I have to defeat Radon? I think the better question is, why can't you? He's not that hard. He's pretty easy. Just stay close to him, bro. Hey, I'm not gonna lie. Here's a better question. For all the people that feel left out for the DLC, why do y'all want to play a game that's harder than the base game if you can't beat the base game? It's okay to be left out the conversation. This is for the Elden Lords out here, okay? What we talking about today is for the Elden Lords. I'm talking about the real Elden Lords. I'm not talking about people who use Mimic Tear, Rivers of Blood, that talisman that stops the rot, so they just had the anti-millennia build accidentally. The people that really struggled. It's okay.
But
7 summons, co-op.
Actually crosses that threshold. And that master
Niggas who really struggled,
along with some truly spectacular boss design, results in some of the most thrilling and satisfying
You said our Moonveil is cheese too? I don't know. I do acknowledge that the Moonveil is a good weapon, but somebody, I'm not gonna say who, chat, but somebody in the group chat today said, I've been looking for a new weapon. I even tried the Moonveil, but he didn't seem very convinced with the Moonveil. And the only thing I could think of was he didn't like it because you can't combo with it. And also, when you do use the magic slash, it leaves you negative. The Moonveil is a powerful weapon, but it has a blatant weakness. I was like, interesting. And it got nerfed.
Elden Ring and the entire Souls-like genre.
You have to fight with it.
It's not just the quality of those fights either. Erdtree has them in quantity too. According to our count, there are more than 40 bosses, with 10 of those being the big showstopper fights that
looks like a cool fight.
Remembrance upon defeat. Compare that to the more than 100 in the base game, and it's a significant chunk. When you bring up the map, it may not seem like the realm of Shadow.
I like the Dr. Doom fit. That's what I'm excited for. I want to get some new armor.
It's that big, but it is incredibly dense because it's stacked in layers. Paths lead upwards towards ruins suspended in the sky, others delve deep beneath the surface, and some even put you in directions that you might not have believed you can even be pulled. You might find a hidden ladder tucked away in the far corner of a castle rampart, only to follow that trail for an hour before it eventually spills out into a totally new, otherwise inaccessible area. But even with all the discoveries to be made, I never felt lost or unsure of where I should.
Yo, he got the joint from Soul Calibur. What's the joint from Soul Calibur? The demon dude. It looked like his sword. What's his fucking name? Now it's gonna drive me crazy. Soul Calibur. Oh, Nightmare. Yeah, Nightmare. He got the Nightmare blade. That shit kind of fire. The Soul Edge. Yeah, he got the Soul Edge joint. That kind of fire.
Go next.
Not Cervantes. I remember Cervantes. That's what I used to play.
Of the demigod Miquella.
Shout out to Brandon.
Behind
and shout out to Taco Shark with the subs.
These footsteps are marked by large
nothing but 10s
that elegantly serve as subtle signposts to let you know when you're in the vicinity of a plot critical path.
Look at the level design.
Feeling like your hand is being held as you're nudged in one explicit direction.
Were you guided here by kindly Miquella?
Apart from the main quest, there's a host of new NPCs, including 7 followers of Miquella that you'll encounter at various points in the journey. Each of them have their own small quest line that ties into the main story.
I'm about to use the fuck out my Mimic Tears.
Have an effect on some of the later boss battles.
Shadow Clone Jutsu!
Bale! Vile Bale! Oh, terror and
Hey, Anon, I know you in the chat. Make sure you stream your playthrough. We want to see that.
incarnate!
And while I consider myself a fairly casual enjoyer of Elden Ring's extensive lore compared to some of the scholars out there, even my limited knowledge of the deeper plot let me appreciate some of the fantastic, eye-opening revelations towards the end of the story.
Oh, my ace
that
is
are
ROG?
well worth the
Bruh, get a computer, man. What the
effort of
fuck?
getting to. It took me about 25 hours or so to beat the final boss of Shadow of the Erdtree.
What?
But I could easily see myself putting in
What? Hey, I need him to clarify that. It took him 25 hours to beat the DLC or the final boss period. Can you clarify that?
about 25 hours or so to beat the final boss of Shadow of the Erdtree.
Oh my
but I
god.
could easily see myself putting in another 15 or 20 on just this one playthrough. I still have a handful
It's crazy too because he was playing co-op.
of optional bosses I need to go back and process my list, areas on the map that I haven't fully
This
explored,
man using co-op, mimic
skills I haven't
tears.
gotten to play around with yet, and side quests that I want
Probably
to
because he
follow to
mainlined
completion.
it. Yeah.
That's pretty much
There's a new power scaling feature in here. He might have not got all the upgrades.
exactly like when I completed my review of the base game after about 80 hours. Which makes sense because Shadow of the Erdtree is essentially a mini Elden Ring adventure. It condenses
Look at that level
the
design with the
experience
blue
down to
fire,
something comparatively
the flowers
compact.
and shit.
All of it satisfyingly tuned specifically for endgame characters who thought they've seen it all.
Weapons of choice.
While I haven't had any holy shit moments of awe, like the first time I took the elevator down to the Shifra River, exploration and discovery throughout the realm
Like,
of
look at that level design. That shit is so fire.
Shadow is still a delight thanks to its stellar art design, a great variety in the areas you get to explore, and the tantalizing rewards pretty much every
Not another
turn.
boat boss fight, man. Get that shit out of here.
There are 8 brand new weapon types, ranging from throwing knives to beast claws.
That's what I think I'm gonna go looking for. I might run that. We might. I'm thinking I'm gonna respec to because I would imagine you probably need to build dex and strength for that. Yeah, hands playthrough. I'm thinking that's what I'm gonna run. Try it out at least.
To giant Odachi samurai swords. My favorite of the new arsenal, though, is the light.
The DLC's 40.
Specifically, the Milady. True to its name,
Milady.
it's a very regal-looking moveset with combos that flow nicely into each other and hit hard, but are also relatively fast compared to actual great swords. For me, it's a sweet spot. I actually swapped off of my powerful.
Oh, that's actually fire. The Wakanda build. It'd be fire if somebody modded the PC version so you can play as Black Panther and then you put on the Beast Claws. That'd be fucking fire.
Dual bandit
Or Wolverine.
lead build to instead rock
Nah, I
a
didn't
strength
have.
and dexterity focused build using one of these and found great success for the majority of the DLC. I experimented with a couple of other weapons as well, something that is possible thanks to the ample opportunities to collect a bunch more Ancient Dragon smithing stones of both the standard and somber varieties. However, in all my travels, I found that while the new weapon types are fun, I mean, there's certainly an appeal to going hand to hand
Bruh, that armor and cloak is so fire. I need that. That Doctor Doom build.
against an army of hands, none of them ultimately measured up to the strength of the weapons I carried over from the base game.
And the little touchy feely.
It's totally possible that there are some talismans I was missing to really make the new one sing, but I was
Oh, wait. Did he say the weapons weren't better than the base? What did he say?
varieties. However, in all my travels, I found that while the new weapon types are fun, I mean, there's certainly an appeal to going hand to hand against an army of hands, none of them ultimately measured up to the strength of the weapons I carried over from the base game.
Translation, I used the bleed build. Chat, be on high alert. Watch for niggas that are using rivers of blood. Watch, see if they revert back. But also take a screenshot of your build just in case the shit you find is ass and you want to revert back. Definitely taking a screenshot of my build just in case.
It's totally possible that there are some talismans I was missing to really make the new one sing, but I was hoping to go through the entirety of Erdtree with a brand new build. Instead, I found myself swapping back to my bread and butter bleed build to get the kind of damage that I needed when the going got tough.
The jokes write themselves. The jokes write themselves. We're on Bleed Watch. We're on Bleed Watch. He said, I'm going to go back to my rivers of blood. That's great.
Still, variety is the spice of life, and Erdtree is one hot dish. Not only are there a ton of new weapons, there are also plenty of new spells, Ashes of War, Spirit Ash summons, and talismans to cover an enormous range of different
He
places.
said, I have a respect. If I
There's now
die,
a
I die. I
talisman
respect
that
it.
enhances two-handed attacks, one that
Ooh.
decreases spellcasting
I like that. Maybe we'll have to run. You could put that on the moon veil. That would help.
Time dramatically, but causes you to take increased damage, another that increases the damage of abilities that involve stances, and
I'm gonna actually try some of this shit. I never used none of this shit. I never used no fucking talisman. I never used no damn Ashes of War. I didn't know what none of that shit was. That shit was nerdy as fuck, bro. I'm gonna at least read some of this shit this time. I'm gonna try.
another still that increases your damage every time you defeat an enemy. And yes, there are also plenty that are just better versions of very useful talismans that you probably already have.
You said get rid of that pebble?
Sticking to what works.
Nah. You see what I be talking about? You see what I be talking? Every day the answer changes. You know, the other day y'all said, oh, you use magic, and I said it was a pebble spell. During my playthrough, y'all said it was trash. Then I beat the game. Then you said, oh, now you use magic. Now you're saying get rid of the pebble. That shit is trash. Which one is it? And then A said on Twitter, he use the pebble spell. Like, what? Is the level 1 spell broken or not? Let me know, chat. I just need to know. I need to know.
So many fun new builds that I couldn't help but wish that Larval Tears were a little more plentiful so I could respec my character.
Thursday. It releases on PC Thursday.
It started to run out by the time I finished the campaign, and I still have a ton of different builds that I want to try. The journey through the Realm of Shadow is
disrespectful.
Very similarly to the Lands Between, in that the map is split up into a number of different regions. Right from the get-go, you're able to head anywhere you want to. You could follow the initial Mikkel across to the very first Legacy dungeon called Bellarat and deal with the new horrific scorpion enemies, or head across the bridge to the east and work your way.
Fuck that. As soon as we get in, I'm busting a left or a right. Wherever we go, we going. I'm getting lost.
Or you could find a way to bypass the need to go through either of those and get straight to the Skadu Altus, which largely serves as the central hub of the Realm of Shadow. Then you could head directly towards the Shadow Keep, fighting your way to the top of it in order to take on one of the major bosses, or going through one of its other exits to explore otherwise inaccessible parts of the map. It's a liberating sense of freedom and the same masterclass level of open world design as the base game, just on a scale that isn't quite so vast. Of course, whether or not you should make a mad dash towards the Shadow Keep is another question entirely. Even though this is endgame content and you probably won't be leveling up quite as fast as you did in the original campaign, there's a separate power scaling system
you can't
that only
customize the
works
horse
while you're within the Realm of Shadow. Scattered throughout the lands are Skadu tree fragments that you can collect and turn in at sites of grace.
So you better explore.
Overall damage and resistance.
You better explore. Get them
Likewise, you can
upgrades.
also find revered Spirit Ash blessings to increase the damage and survivability of your Spirit Ash summons. These are two very smart inclusions as they add a much needed sense of progression, a valuable reward for
You played on keyboard, homeless? What the fuck?
exploration, and something else to hunt for if you're getting wrecked by a boss and need to come back when you're stronger, all while cleverly preserving some of the original and game's balance if you're bravely tackling this DLC before circling back to beat the full game.
The verdict.
From Software says that Shadow of the Erdtree is the only expansion Elden Ring will get.
It's the end of an era. We gotta celebrate this, chat. It's the end of an era.
So it's fortunate that it's hard to imagine a better DLC than this, as long as you're not hoping for it to do anything radically outside the box. Everything that I loved about the original has been condensed into an incredibly tight package.
Look at this level design.
That's the size of many standalone games all on its own, and can only really be considered small in comparison to the absolute...
Not milking it. I like it. Yeah. Also, he said, Miyazaki, the producer, he said something. I got an article. I'm going to show it later. He said something I really liked. Give you a little hint. He basically said, this is not even my final form, bro. I
the
was
world
like, what?
of Elden Ring itself. Erdtree is absolutely jam-packed with secrets, valuable treasures, challenging boss battles, and horrific monstrosities to face off against, as well as cool new weapons, spells, Ashes of War, Spirit Ashes, talismans, and more to play around
I got
with,
one more in me.
to find even more novel ways to tackle its memorably brutal battles. Add on some very interesting lore revelations, not to mention the same spectacular visual design and stellar music that accompanies its larger-than-life bosses, and you've got what is certainly
Look at the fucking level design, bruh.
best DLC expansions I've ever played.
10 out of 10.
For
Masterpiece.
more Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree, make sure that you're all set to go with our checklist of how to prepare for the DLC, along with our video showing how to level up quickly if you're not at a high enough level to tackle it yet. And for everything else, keep it
Another Tree Centennial. I seen a video that said it's like 10 plus main bosses. It's like 50 side ones. So you're gonna run into some similar ones and some new ones. nothing but 10s. Let me see if I can. Where's that article? Let's see. Oh, this is the one right here. All right. Before we go into the next video, I'll bring you up what I was talking about. I'm still in the process of making my ideal fantasy RPG, says From Software's Miyazaki. While Elden Ring is not quite it, it's getting close. Before he owned video game, well, we don't care about that shit. You might say that trying to capture the excitement of those old tabletop games and books was a facet of making Elden Ring, Miyazaki told in a recent interview. I asked if he saw Elden Ring as an intentional extension of the 80s dungeon crawlers, the kind of games that encouraged, if not demanded, players draw physical maps to chart their way. Despite being From Software's most approachable RPG, Elden Ring is still light on the kinds of helpful features many modern players expect, but Miyazaki has more or less built his and the studio's reputation on ensuring such things. I think more than anything, it's just my personal preference when it comes to RPGs and exploring those fantasy worlds. So you might see some of my personal idiosyncrasies, come into play with Elden Ring right there. He said, I think that excitement for me at least comes from seeing the world map and piecing together the world map. So when we finally got to do that and start piecing that together when making Elden Ring, that was a really nice moment for me personally. He said he wants to respect the player. He doesn't want to hold your hand, basically. But he's trying to meet people in the middle by streamlining some things. Back when doing interviews about Elden Ring, I think I mentioned that I'm still in the process of making my ideal RPG. And while Elden Ring is not quite it, it's pretty close. It's getting close. That was too tempting a thread to not pull on, so of course I had to ask what was the missing thing from his ideal RPG. Miyazaki laughed while answering. It's hard to say without giving any spoilers for my next idea. This nigga already has the plan. It's hard to say without giving spoilers for my next idea or next game, but I think one thing that's not necessarily missing but makes it difficult to achieve my idea is that when I play it, I know everything's going to happen. I already know everything that's going on, so in terms of enjoying the game from a player's perspective, I'd love to not know that. And for everyone else to make my ideal fantasy please if possible, then I can enjoy it as a player. Damn, he said, yo, that was such a humble way of saying, yo, y'all need to step y'all shit up. Y'all need to get like me. I threw out the possibility of a short-term amnesia, maybe a quick case of forgetfulness could allow Miyazaki to enjoy one of his own games more as a player. That'd be a dream, he joked. To self-induce amnesia and enjoy the game I created myself, but I might be really angry and break the controller or something. Interesting, I see the vision. So basically he's saying, I got the sauce, he's got the idea in his head, but he doesn't want to give it away because obviously it would spoil it. So basically, give it like 5 years or something like that. They're going to disappear. They're going to come back. He said, I got one more in me. Is it Elden Ring 2? I don't know. It might be something new. Maybe Sekiro 2. Could be something like totally new game. The point is, he said that he's got some more original ideas. I feel like he's operating at 85, 90%. He's got a few more ideas to take it to another level, which is crazy to hear. Because he's gotten tens. I'm gonna just throw in a quest log. I'm tired of getting lost. Maybe a mix of the two. Yeah, maybe. That was interesting though. That was interesting. Let's watch this.
Hey guys, here's our review for
Elden Ring. So we watched the journal. I pulled up a journalist one from IGN. Let's see what a creator says. I found Angry Joe uploaded a video. This one's only 10 minutes. Let's see what Mr. Joe is talking about.
Tree DLC expansion. Alex handled this for us. He's been playing it non-stop at his house for the past week.
We get in two different perspectives.
He's a resident expert in these kinds of games. Me and Joe are not very good at it, but that doesn't mean that we are not also going to give you our opinion. So
it must be good. This nigga blushing like an anime girl. Look at his cheeks. He having a good time, bruh. This is not Angry Joe. This is Happy Joe.
With everybody else, so stay tuned for our opinions. And I think Alex did a wonderful job.
How are people playing it early?
So excited to present it to you.
I'm not trying to be an ass, but it really blows my mind that people still ask these questions. They're content creators and journalists. It's just kind of like the business, man. They always get the codes early so they can get the reviews out.
So I hope you guys enjoy the review, and no worries, more
review
to come
codes,
on.
man.
So check it out.
You gotta shoot down Mesmer. When Joe's smiling, that's when you know the game good.
To another rapid fire review, this time for FromSoft's Shadow of the Erdtree DLC. Just in case you didn't see it in the title, this review will be completely spoiler free. Now, I've played a few Souls games in my time.
Nothing too crazy, 500 hours.
Of Elden Ring, so I was pretty excited when this was announced. I look back on my time in the Lands Between fondly. The combat was challenging but satisfying. It was incredibly approachable.
What does begin 31 mean? Does that mean begin new game plus 31? Is that what it means? Because if that's the case, he's a fucking sweat. 31 times harder than the average? Jeez.
Even for people completely new to Souls games.
This is definitely an opinion we should listen to. He knows what the fuck he's talking about.
There were hundreds of weapons in dozens of different weapon types that gave the game incredible replayability for people who wanted to try new things or tackle bosses with new builds. The world is vast, diverse.
How do you find a story to play? Well, he's probably just testing out builds.
It was actually worth exploring. Not just for the experience of seeing the world they built, but for new weapons.
It caps at 7? Okay.
And spirits. And I certainly wasn't alone in my appreciation for Elden Ring.
That's still crazy. That's still crazy because I seen a tweet. Somebody who reviewed this game, he was saying he knows somebody that's on New Game Plus 7, and they weren't able to get their video done in a timely manner because New Game Plus 7 is so fucking hard. They couldn't beat the final boss. I was like, see, that's why I don't play New Game, bruh. Regular is stressful enough for me.
Game of the Year awards, sold more than 25 million copies, and even today has almost 200,000 people playing on PC alone. So the excitement for the DLC makes a lot of sense. Now, people often talk about wanting to re-experience a piece of media for the first time. The opportunity to relive those warm and fuzzy feelings they got maybe when they saw their favorite movie, played their favorite game, or read their favorite book. And I've got to say that Shadow of the Erdtree gets you about as close to that as you possibly can. From start to finish, it was an incredible experience, and I got everything I wanted out of the DLC and more. Exploring the world was a joy. Like the base game, the world is mostly open to you right from the start. Some of the areas...
That's crazy level design with all the platforming, and you got bosses in the back.
Designed for later in the DLC could be a bit of a trek to get to, or require some figuring out. But if you really wanted to get there, even before the story lets you, it's still possible. The map itself is actually bigger than I thought it was going to be. It's certainly bigger than
Shout out to Love is Rage with the sub.
Combined. It's densely packed with points of interest that are actually worth
it looks
exploring.
Like a second game.
Catacombs with the mazes and the puzzles.
That fit is crazy.
Secrets and the hidden walls.
You saw the League of the New Bosses? No, I don't want to see it. Keep it to yourself.
Spirit ashes. You got the mausoleum and the jails.
I feel like I'm already being spoiled by seeing some of the level design, but I definitely don't want to know the bosses. Like that's half of the fun right there. Like to me, it's like it's not the same. Like because you still got to execute it, right? But when the game first comes out and nobody knows what's the best build, the best talismans and ashes and shit, and you don't know how to fight the bosses, that's half the fun. Figuring it out.
The mini boss dueling, and all manners of caves and caverns that can just be enemy-riddled dead ends or can get you from one landmass to another. Now, the terrain here is divided by vast differences in elevation, so naturally,
a lot of
vertical traversal has a heavy emphasis.
Platforming, baby.
Narrow paths, lots of platforming, spirit springs, and the new sealed spirit springs, as well as some good old-fashioned coffin sleeping, get you from place to place. I spent
that banhammer is crazy.
Amount of time repeatedly asking, how the fuck do I get over there?
You playing this off stream?
The
if you
world
did,
itself is also gorgeous.
Nah, if I play it off stream, the only thing I would do off stream is like clear out like mobs and shit like that. But if I get to a boss, I always beat them on stream. Matter of fact, somebody tried to call me out earlier today and said I just threw pebbles at Millennia, and I said that's not true. There's footage. I fought her in the pocket. Don't get mad at me because you use rivers and you don't like being called out. Don't lie on me. Don't lie on me now. We got the footage.
It's the land of shadow, sure, and it has its fair share of horrible swamps, poison, and spooky, scary locations. But there's also beautiful landscapes if you look, and plenty of visually striking places you'll happen upon.
Yeah, he just said there's more verticality. Shout out to Unquivocal with the 5 gifted subs. I appreciate you.
Told us we do venture into the Shadowlands to see what Mikola has been up to, and along the way we will meet several new NPCs, each with their own quests and quirks, and it's quite easy to bungle up those quests. And even if you don't, in true FromSoft fashion, the results can be interesting for them. On the gameplay side, I had 3 save files ready to go. A level 360 at max world level, a level 160 at world level 1.
So
and then a
360 is
level
the
1
max?
character. I went with the 160 level character first to experience the DLC kind of as it's meant to. Not too leveled, but with enough stats that my all-strength Unga Bunga build could do its thing. As for the game's difficulty,
I don't get that. It's in the game, so who cares? It's about the glory, right? If you're trying to be a part of the conversation that involves glory, it's like this, right? Who are you more inclined to listen to about business? Somebody who got it out the mud and became a millionaire, or a trust fund baby? You're more likely going to listen to the person who got it out of the mud. You see what I'm saying? We don't really want to hear about your mimic tier. We don't really want to hear about that. Like, we still going to respect you, beat it, but, respectfully stay out the conversation when we talk about the greatest. You see what I'm saying? So, yeah, if it's in the game, use it. Just understand you can't be part of this conversation. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm not mad at it.
if you've made it past the 2 required bosses from Elden Ring to even access the DLC area, I think you'll be just fine.
This man made a naked Kung Fu nigga.
As
What the
hard as
fuck?
you want it to be. With the new character and Spirit Ash upgrade mechanics, you
This man made Chuck Liddell in a thong.
get to decide how hardcore of an experience you want. And the DLC land can be pretty tough, and some of the bosses will pretty much laugh at your paltry damage values when you first find them. And I mean it. I was riding high and feeling good after beating some early stuff with no trouble, with no upgrades. And then I found a big, nasty optional boss. Dodged some crazy cinematic attack animations, I charged up a big, heavy attack, and I did so little damage that I actually said, "uh-oh," out loud. And then I died.
That says to me that exploration is going to be really important because there's a new power scaling. There's like, I guess they're like golden seeds or whatever that you find them all throughout the map. You got to go find those to upgrade your damage because the scaling is different in this. Because remember, he said he was level 360. He was max level. And he said he was tickling bosses. So that says to me he didn't probably explore at first. And then he was like, well, let me go explore. So, I mean, you can run to them bosses right away if you want to, but it sounds like it's better to just play the damn game.
While you're exploring the Shadowlands, you can collect
360 isn't max. That's still a high-ass level, bruh.
and revered Spirit Ashes. You spend these items at Sites of Grace, and you can slightly increase your attack power and your damage negation, or do the same thing for your Spirit Summons. These upgrades eventually cost more fragments each time, so you'll need to explore.
You level 660? God damn.
Honestly, if you just want to power
Why you ain't get to 669?
through, you have that option too.
I've been a nasty girl, a nasty.
Completely naked level 1 with a club and no buff run will be on YouTube. And another way.
So you
from
can
some
smell his
bosses
room?
is
Yeah, I know his
there
chair
are
stink.
Quite a few new weapons to play with, plus 8 completely new weapon categories. In my playthrough, there was no shortage of big, heavy things to smash bosses with, even right from the start. And there is no shortage of other weapon types either. One major benefit of this being a DLC versus a fresh new game is each time I picked up a weapon I thought was interesting.
Eurogamer gave it a 3 out of 5 because it was too hard. Are you being serious or are you joking? Because I'm about to Google that. Are you being serious?
Or found a Spirit Ash.
Yeah, this is Angry Joe's
immediately
homeboy.
Just go back to the round table.
He started
Buy
like,
smithing
he hired
stones
them to like
materials
do
I
some
needed, and
smaller
just could
reviews.
upgrade them to the penultimate level just to see if I liked
I know they gave it a 3 out of 5, but
really
what was the
amazing ones I
reason?
could fully upgrade, as Shadows of the Erdtree was pretty generous.
I'm
in
so
its ancient
serious. I'm
smithing
gonna pull it up
stone
after
and
this.
glove ore drops.
I'm gonna pull it up after
The
this.
build variety here is immense, not just in brand new builds from new weapon types, or crazy new Ashes of War, which are going to make a lot of people very happy, but also due to some new talismans. They're going to give some much needed love to fringe build types. You're going to find several options for new weapons with at least 3 or more scaling stats, so people with really high level characters will have more options to choose from when pushing for really high attack ratings. There are also some incredible new armor sets. Sure, the stats are pretty good, but we all know that fashion is the most important thing.
Absolutely.
Also, be
Gotta
sure to
get
check
the
out
drip.
item description on
If
all.
I'm getting my ass beat, I want to get my ass beat in style.
There's a surprising amount of passive buffs on these. The Magic users here are also going to get some new toys to play with.
Oh my god, new scrub toys, new scrub abilities.
Nasty fireballs, pretty butterflies, bear stuff, of course, and then Dark Side Omega Beam style sorceries, and then lots more other stuff too.
Every day I regret getting on the internet. Drake fans get weirder by the day. Hey, tomorrow, what time does that Kendrick concert start tomorrow? Ain't it gonna be on Twitch? We might have to stream that. Drake fans are gonna be on Suicide Watch tomorrow. What time that shit supposed to be?
My first run took
4 p.m.
about 20 hours. That's for all of the bosses and optional encounters, at least all of the ones that I could find. That's all the exploration, getting lost, experimenting with builds, and an embarrassing amount of time matching the paintings to the landscape for the puzzles. So if you're just looking to experience a DLC one time, I'd plan for about that. For me, I'm at least going to get another run out of the DLC, and honestly, with the build variety this opens up, I'm going to play through the base game a bunch more times too. So I personally think the $40 asking price feels okay.
No, he did not. You could do the Frieza pose? That's crazy. I got to get that.
So I personally think the
Hello,
$40
monkeys!
price feels okay. I've played far shorter and far worse Souls games for $60. Shadow of the Erdtree had me excited to play it every time I had the chance. It was about as close to re-experiencing Elden Ring for the first time as possible, but with the benefits of building on those already refined systems
Black Frieza build.
and adding a few more. It really did feel like being a kid on Christmas. So I have to give Shadow of the Erdtree a 10 out of 10. It may not be perfect, but a DLC that's this good on its own, that adds even more replayability for its incredible base game, has to get the legendary score. Alright, thanks so much for watching this rapid fire review. Miyazaki, if you happen to be watching, please, please, please give me Bloodborne on PC already, and add a boss refighting tool in all your games. Thanks again, and I shall see you next time on The Angry Joe Show.
Sheesh, another 10. They should add a boss rush mode. Let me pull up that Eurogamer joint. Eurogamer Elden Ring review. Let's turn that shit back on. Let's see. Is there a specific moment where they say it's too hard? Dun, 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 dun. Do they give like a... Bruh, I'm not trying to read all this. Wait, where they say it as? In the middle? I need to see the quote. Dun, 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 dun. I guess we're starting from the top. Control F. Yeah, I can search the word hard. But say why the Dominican tag? Because the internet says I'm Dominican. I don't know. The search on this would be really difficult. It's really hard to maintain that sense of growth. It's not hard to understand. Bruh. You gotta pinpoint for me. Search difficult, but difficult. This, however, feels like difficulty. Oh, I think we found it. It's true that this distinct type of FromSoft engineered frustration is an indispensable part of the Souls experience, to hurl yourself repeatedly against a seemingly immovable object until, through sheer luck and serendipitous timing, you somehow prevail. There's a real palpable joy and pride and relief in that. We've all felt it, and with the blessing of hindsight, suddenly all that failure feels like it was worth it. In other cases, they're genuinely instructional with real lessons learned. This, however, feels like difficulty for difficulty's sake, turned up to 11, perhaps because with the added expectations of a DLC having something extra absurd to conquer, even though it technically doesn't require finishing the core game. I go through dozens of deaths over a period of several days, and despite taking breaks to go off and do some other things and explore other areas, I realized that I just don't want to do this anymore. It seems like she didn't really want to, or he or she didn't really want to play it. These are the same ones that cry about 75-degree weather being too hot. In the Shadow Realm, death is always listening. I surf fleeting. Man, you're just saying big ass words for no fucking reason. Feel like you spent more time writing big ass words than trying to get good. This person got beaten to submission. Yeah, is that the only thing that she's talking about difficult? Oh, let's see, where does it say right here? The first three major bosses are challenging but readable and learnable. The difficulty discrepancy between those and the fourth boss, though, was brutal. Okay. Throughout the open world, like, is it cheap? Like, when you say that type of stuff, you gotta, like, I feel like you gotta be more specific. Like, you can't just say, oh, it was hard, because, like, we're just gonna scream skill issue. Yeah, I don't know about this one. Yeah, the game just isn't for everyone. Like, this is why I wouldn't want to review one of these games. You have to be in order to review one of these type of games where you get it early and get the review out in a timely manner. I feel like you have to be really good at these games. I wouldn't want to review one of these. You can get a first impressions from me. That's it. Now I feel that you rusty as fuck and you don't have the determination to get good again. That shouldn't affect the score. Yeah, it really shouldn't. That's crazy. What else I got from you? From Software says Elden Ring's popular seamless co-op mod is definitely not something we should actively oppose and may even consider ideas like that with our future games. Here it is right here. It's definitely not something we actively oppose or want to downplay, wanting to go through the whole game together, Miyazaki said. In terms of where we were with Elden Ring, it was simply a case of wanting that more loose casual style drop in, defeat a boss, drop out. It doesn't put any technical restrictions on the player. It just sort of lets them complete this focus, then move on to speak. Although it does put a technical limitation on it, because one of the limitations is you need one of those furl fingers or whatever, which you have to buy off of the vendors, and they run out. And then if you can't buy anymore, you have to craft them. So there is technical limitations. I think that should just allow for seamless. Like it's already halfway in the game. Just make it seamless co-op. My suggestion is just make the game harder. If they're playing co-op, put it on New Game Plus difficulty, since then nobody can call your shit Mickey. You know what I'm saying? Maybe make it so they can't use summons or something like that. There's ways to go about it where you can balance it where we keep the difficulty, but also allow people to play together. Full co-op would have been fun. I think personally, I still would want to fade the main bosses by myself. But if I want to run around like the open areas with my friends and maybe beat side bosses and just farm and shit like that, we should be able to do that. Split aggro is a pretty big buff. Didn't the creator say he wants to make a full co-op game? That's basically what, well, he's hinting at. He's not ruling it out, right? No Celtics playthroughs. This is not to say we won't consider other ways like you and your friend played from beginning to end total co-op. That's not to say we won't consider ideas like that with our future games. So I mean, it's a possibility. It's a possibility. I hope it does happen. I hope it does happen. Take the limitations off that shit. They should do it like Remnant. Yeah, in Remnant 2, it was completely co-op, and for every person that was in the party, it scaled the difficulty, and like you could feel it. Just make the game harder. What else we got? Could an Elden Ring or a Dark Souls movie be in the future? Miyazaki isn't opposed to it. He just rather someone else handle it. What they say. But I'll be trying to get right to the meat and potatoes. In a recent interview with GameSpot, Elden Ring's director Miyazaki was asked his thoughts on a potential Elden Ring or Dark Souls movie or TV show, and if he sees a future where he wants to adapt things or try new mediums. I don't know if I should say we or perhaps me in this instance, but I have no intention of saying, oh, there's never going to be a movie or denying all possibilities of other adaptations. It's just how I think and how I best communicate with audiences through the interactive medium. So that's where my focus has gone. And when I think about how I can best communicate it, it is through interactivity. There are many others who can make a much better linear format content than we can. For myself and from software, I think the biggest value add that we can provide is by making games. So again, not saying no to any possibilities, but perhaps there are others who are better suited to adapting Elden Ring into other mediums. I agree with this statement. As much as I love the game, I just don't see it as a TV show or a movie. Because I feel like half of what makes it so great is overcoming the obstacle, kind of like what he said with the interactivity. It's the player. And also kind of like, exploring the world and creating the stories, like the mystery of it all. I don't know if that translates well to like a movie. Like, how do you explain, like, there's someone in the chat that just fought Millennia and it took her 17 hours because she didn't listen. How do you convey that into a movie without losing the viewer, I'm not going to sit in the movie theater for 17 hours. I ain't that invested, pretty much. Somebody beat my record in the chat. Somebody in the chat beat my record, but nothing too crazy. Elden Ring anime would be nice. That's the part that I feel like it would be hard to convey. I think they should probably just leave it as a game. The lore of the Souls games does not translate well into a movie. I think the lore is good enough. It's just like the action part conveying that I think would be an issue. So I think they should just let it be games. That's fine. Not everything needs to be everything. Everything doesn't need to be a TV show and a movie. I feel like Fallout works well as a TV show is because it's just as strong narratively. It's not as much about the gameplay. I feel like the world is just as important and shit. Elden Ring was an enormous success. Miyazaki says that doesn't mean open world games will become the new standard From Software. Basically saying, don't expect us to make the same game over and over. And I'm gonna be honest, that's what I like to hear from artists. My favorite artists, they do not make the same album. When you start making the same album back to back to back, that's when the fall off happens. Speaking in an interview, make what you're inspired to make. And that's for everything. Speaking in an interview with GameSpot, Miyazaki shares his thoughts on Elden Ring being an open world hit and whether the genre will become the baseline for the company's future games. I wouldn't necessarily say that the open world is going to become the new base or foundation or standard of the company. We have a lot of game directors and designers who are growing, so we'd love to keep an open mind in terms of the type of games that we develop. No Elden Ring Lego? Fuck no. Yo, shout out to the 800 we got in here. If you're new, hit the follow button, turn on noties. It don't cost nothing to show our brother love. The From Software lead continues providing exciting yet vague comments about upcoming games from the beloved Souls-like studio. So of course, I can't really say anything at this exact moment, but perhaps when you see future announcements from Some Software, you'll look back at this point and think, that's what he meant. While Miyazaki doesn't expand on what fans may see later on, it certainly sounds like the company might not be done with the open world genre, but it also isn't strictly adhering to it from here on out. As for Elden Ring, Miyazaki says he wasn't 100% sure the team could pull its open world off initially. We've always wanted to push the status quo and kind of extend ourselves a little bit, which was what helped create Elden Ring. Leaning into the open world genre was the key while developing the critically acclaimed game, he explains. A lot of the core concepts came down to giving players this adventurous feel, the very open world freedom, and then adjusting the difficulty to match that freedom. Miyazaki feels that From Software accomplishes as much as they can with Elden Ring, but nothing is ever perfect. If given the chance to redo the open world RPG, the president admits that he might do some things differently, but I would like the chance to revisit the themes. Interesting. The lore is basically set up already. It could be episodic, like games like Game of Thrones. How you feeling about the Nintendo Direct? I didn't watch it at all. I got it saved though. We can go into that after that. It was just like a lot of Elden Ring news dropping. So I was like, I sectioned it off into like different things, different topics. We almost done with the Elden Ring shit. This one was interesting. Just a quick tidbit. This is a tweet I put out. So I saw 2 articles that came out in the last 24 hours. And I just thought it was really interesting. So the EA executive, what is his name? Andrew Wilson. He made $60 million in 2024. And they laid off like 3,000 people, I think, already. Not 60 million, my bad, 25 million. But then you look over here at Miyazaki talking about From Software, and he said, as long as this company is my responsibility, I would not let that happen. In terms of, he's talking about layoffs. He wants to keep the team together by any means necessary. I just find it very interesting. And I was tweeting about how there's a contrast in like the different companies, and like you should just focus on, making a quality product, supporting your employees. And let the game, let it speak for itself. But then somebody said in the comments it's more of a cultural thing, and I was like, you know what? Yeah, you might be right. Like, I don't think this motherfucker plays games. Is Miyazaki the Kendrick of RPGs? He might be. It might just be like a cultural thing, because in Japan, I know Nintendo, their CEO, I think he makes $2 million a year, and it's one of the biggest companies in the world. And you would think that they would be making more money versus EA. They make a lot of shit games, and he's making all this fucking money. Like, why? Like, you're not good with 5? Yeah, because isn't From actually a pretty small company? Yeah, I think that is one fair, because we are comparing apples to oranges. Like, From Software is just one studio versus EA has a whole umbrella of studios. But I'd still argue he doesn't need to make that much money, because, I mean, let's look at what EA has put out over the years. What warrants you making $25 million? Madden sucks. Last time I checked, people didn't really like the new FIFA. We don't know what college football is going to do. Jedi Survivor, as much as I love Jedi Survivor, anybody that wants to critique it because it had poor performance, they launched it in a terrible state. This guy doesn't give a fuck about the quality of his games. Microtransactions everywhere. Versus like this company, they're just putting out quality games and letting it speak for itself. And then they're also smart because they're capitalizing on moments like when Kai streamed the game. I don't know if y'all saw, but they sent Kai Cenat a life-size statue of Millennia. So they're taking that free promotion and then they're taking it to the next level. I was like, oh, this probably costs like $1,000 or $2. Let's spend this and send it to them. We're gonna sell even more games. Word of mouth. When you treat people right. Apex, fuck Apex, bro. That shit ain't been good since like season 6 or 7. That shit is dead as fuck. You said that statue taller than him. To be fair, everybody's taller than him, including me. Y'all gotta cut that out. Yeah, it's capitalism over passion. I don't know what the solution is, but it's unfortunate, man. It's unfortunate. It just goes to show you when you're actually passionate about what you're creating, you can still achieve greatness while treating people with decency. I think in Japan, the cultural difference is like they only focus on laying off people if the company is about to collapse, versus in America they'll just lay you off to restructure because these motherfuckers is making money hand over fist. And like I said, why do you need another boat, dude? Why do you need another boat? It's been 2 years since Jedi Survivor released and the game still runs like ass on PC. Priorities all fucked up. And then last but not least, in terms of Elden Ring news, not Elden Ring, but Elden Ring adjacent, it's been confirmed that a Lords of the Fallen sequel is coming. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't like Lords of the Fallen. It wasn't bad, but like after playing Elden Ring, it felt kind of janky. And then I didn't like the 2-world mechanic, but Siggy loved this game. He swore it was fire. Hopefully this one's better. Definitely gonna keep our eye on it. There's no gameplay, it's just an announcement. 2026 PS5, Xbox, PC. Keep your eye on it. Hopefully this one is better. Hopefully this one is better. I just beat Jedi Survivor, so many crashes on PC. I had a few crashes on Xbox.